Hello there everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video, and today we're mashing two speculatory topics of conversation together to fill this massive void that we all have between Godforge alpha waves. We're going to be looking at whether weapons are giving us leaks for future heroes to come, and also whether one particular weapon is going to define the PvP meta, which was brought along by a topic of conversation in a recent podcast. All that and more coming up, so without further ado, let's get into it. Today we're doing something we've not done in a while. We're doing a bit of speculation to fill the time between these two alpha waves. So where does this speculation come from? Well, we know that the weapon system within Godforge, now my theory is that some of the weapons in-game are giving hints for heroes to come. Uses famous weapons of old, essentially, okay? Zeus's Thunderbolt, okay, whilst it's a spear, not a thunderbolt, it quite clearly belongs to Zeus. We have the World Splitter, which is the axe that belongs to Pangu. And we also have weapons like Mjolnir, which belongs to Thor. And whilst Thor is not in the Cavern's experience, we do know that Thor is in the game. And so on. The Blood Sword is for Dracula. The Holy Grail is kept by the Fisher King. Now, one weapon that we've seen that is in the game where the heroes are not is this one just here. Now, I do believe that there is a spelling mistake here. I do believe this is Ameno Nuboko rather than Nuhoko. And this is the Celestial Spear that Izanami and Izanagi used to stir sort of the oil slick and make the world in sort of Shinto mythos. Now, that tied with all the weapons we've just talked about made me think, is there other stuff here giving hints for gods to come? And the first example is to do with Heka. Now, Heka is a very strong weapon. It's been used with great effect on brawlers and is the single biggest attack increase you can get right now. But did you know that Heka is also the Egyptian god of magic and medicine? That's right. Now, quite clearly this is just general art which has been used just to sort of hold the line for alpha, but quite clearly it is an Aru related weapon. But Heka also refers to the god of magic and medicine, but not just that, the concept of magic itself. It's not necessarily a physical weapon in a traditional sense, but rather a force or power associated with magic. The crook and flail is often depicted with the god Heka and are symbols of kingship and authority. So yes, I wonder whether come full launch, this weapon right here is actually going to look more like the crook and flail we see on the likes of Ramsey's model. These two here in his hand are more likely going to be what we see Heka be represented come full launch. And then that sent me down a rabbit hole, essentially, of various other weapons in the game which could be spoilers for gods to come. The next weapon on the list is Harpe. Now, Harpe is an Olympian weapon, so what possible myth could this belong to? Well, it belongs to two people. One of them we do know we're going to see in the game already. Now, the Harpe is a legendary sword or sickle from Greek mythology that was primarily known for its role in the myths of Kronos and Perseus. Now, it was used by Kronos to castrate his father Uranus, to release all of his kin, and to slay the Gorgon Medusa by Perseus. The weapon is often depicted with a sickle-like protrusion along the blade, sometimes resembling that as a scythe or a khopesh. Now, we do have khopesh in the game as well. It is a rare weapon located down here, so it looks more similar to what we see there. But yes, the Harpe was used primarily by Kronos and Perseus. Now, we do know Kronos is going to be the clan boss, the eventual clan boss. We haven't seen anything of him, just more of the domain that he's going to be in, that sort of celestial starry night. I'll put an image up here just so you can all see. But is this confirmation that Perseus himself might also be in the game? I'd be shocked not to see him at some point. He is a very big Greek myth. But yeah, that was number 2. Number 3 is Galatine. Now, Galatine is an Avalonian weapon and was typically the sword of Gawain. Now, Gawain was granted this sword by the Lady of the Lake, and it was said to make the wielder invincible under the sunlight. So, this could be confirmation of one of 2 characters, Gawain being the most obvious here. But potentially this is also confirmation that the Lady of the Lake herself will be in the game. Once again, I would be massively surprised if neither of them were, but it is still a fun thing to see. Now, it doesn't give us any inkling as to what the hero is necessarily going to do, but yeah, once again, another weapon potentially confirming 2 new heroes. The next one on this list is Tyrfing. Now, Tyrfing is a really large sort of Norse mythology. It was famed for its sharpness and its curse. It was said that any time it was drawn, someone would die. Now, the background of it is it was forged by dwarves. It can cut through anything, even stone, and it would never miss its target. It was cursed that it would kill a man each time it was drawn and cause 3 great evils that ultimately led to the death of its wielder. And it was said for a few things. I believe it's the only sword known to have cut Odin, but more to the characters that it sort of refers to. It refers to possibly one of 3 dwarves. So the first one it refers to is Dvalin and Durin. Now, they were the original creators of the sword, but they were ordered to make it by King Svaflami. Hopefully I haven't butchered that one. But yes, it is a central element in a collection of Norse myths and sagas. And yes, potentially this leads to 3 dwarves, one of 3 dwarfs at least, coming to Godforge. Now, the last and the coolest one of the bunch is Sharur. This is a really cool myth because Sharur was said to be sentient. That's right, it's renowned as a sentient talking mace and is the weapon of the warrior god Ninurta. You know, it was famous for its ability to fly, communicate, and even offer strategic advice in battle. And I do believe that the mythos around Ninurta and Sharur was that they were said to have slain the demonic being known as Asag. And Asag is in the game. Don't know why I closed that there. But yes, so is that confirmation that Ninurta himself is coming to the game? I certainly think so. I think that would be really cool. Now, I know we're clutching at straws here in this video to fill the time, but I thought it was a cool little thing to discuss about, you know, whether these weapons are actually giving hints for people to come to the game. Am I crazy? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments down below. We are talking about PvP. Now, that seems like quite a strange thing to discuss, especially as right now in the alpha experience, there is no PvP. It's just one singular PvE environment. But in a recent podcast, Brad and the guests had this to say.
Well, what I was worried about is, do we end up in a situation where, like, meta, in PvP is like you only build one hero with speed, everybody else with initiative. You get one person's turn, and then you just go alt, 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 and match over. But that's just a consideration that was in my mind of, gosh, I hope it doesn't break the game, like just letting people alt whenever they want.
Now that got me thinking. That is something that I have been utilising in the cabin experience so far. I've been using the likes of Aphrodite moving really fast to put her core ability on someone and then boost that someone's own divinity meter by 40% with this ultimate. And it led me thinking about one particular weapon that could maybe become very popular in the PvP meta. And that weapon is, of course, Mjolnir. Now, Mjolnir says when it's ranked up, gain X amount of divinity. Now, I believe at level 6 this will give you 500 divinity. And for a lot of heroes, starting with an extra 500 divinity gets you very close to your ultimate. In the instance of Lady Shock, for example, she starts with 450, gaining 500 off the bat will make her be able to cast her ultimate straight away. And even Hercules, for example, will allow him to start stacking his HP and his damage right away. Now, there are others that perhaps it isn't as impactful for, like Anubis or Odin, but it's still giving you a really big push towards it, which made me think, is this what is going to define PvP? You know, if things stay the same, are we looking at a meta where you will have a really fast character like Aphrodite or whoever, perhaps even someone that boosts divinity that we've not seen yet, paired up with a load of other people with impactful ultimates carrying a Mjolnir? Now, I'm not going to pretend I am the best PvP player. I did do quite well in the Etheria EWS tournament, but I've also sometimes missed a few glaringly obvious things when it comes to PvP. Some people I think are good and not, and people who I think are shit turns out to be god tier. And there is the argument to be made that actually there are heroes like Mordred whose most defining and impactful ability is actually on their core, which you can use right away. So is having your ultimate available straight away even necessary when you've got impactful CC like that? And that in itself is an interesting topic of conversation, but it did make me think and did make me wonder, you know, is casting ultimates out of turn potentially dangerous for Godforge? Who knows? That is something for us all to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And I promise in a few days' time we'll be back to doing more tower content, more streaming, rather than just speculation. But I thought it was cool. Anyway, that's it from me. Take care, look after yourselves, work hard, but as always, play harder. And I will see you in another video soon. Cheers.